Welcome back, I'm SeeJayAre, and this is episode 2 of the Game Boy Quest. Alright guys, welcome back. SeeJayAre here. This will be episode 2 of the Game Boy Quest. Thank you to everybody who's been helping me out with this collection. If those of you that don't know, I recently, the last couple months, have been modding Game Boys. You can find those mods that I do on Instagram. I'll leave my link to the Instagram page in the description below. But I've been modding and selling these, so if you're at all interested in one, they're backlight modded, biverted. They've really, I've mentioned this before, revitalized my love, rejuvenated my love for the original Game Boy. I've played this system more than any system, probably in the last 2 months or so. I've played more Game Boy games than any other system, so I'm really enjoying learning about new games. My knowledge is actually quite low when it comes to Game Boy games. I'm constantly finding new games, hidden gems, really good games that I just never heard of, so it's been really fun. So thank you to everybody who's been helping me out. There will be a link also in the description below to a database of the games that I have. If you search that database, it'll take you, I'll set it up so it'll take you right to my Game Boy collection so you can see everything that I currently have. And if you've got any doubles that you're willing to get rid of, feel free to contact me. The best place to do that is on Facebook. So in today's episode, Gamer Alley VT was this source of games. Matt was collecting, if those of you that don't know, Gamer Alley VT, I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description below. He's my buddy Matt. He comes out garage sailing with me. He's not my brother. He was collecting Game Boy games, and for about a 2-week period there, he changes his mind every day on what he's collecting. So for about a 2-week period, he said he was going to go for a complete set. So he started buying up games that he didn't necessarily want to play. So he had since talked himself out of collecting and only buying the games that he really wanted to play. And since I bought these from him, he's since changed his mind. He's bought back some of these games, so he's a bit of a mess when it comes to deciding what he's going to collect for. But that's one of Matt's things. That's the way Matt is. So anyways, thank you very much, Gamer Alley VT, for hooking me up with these. A lot of these I know were purchased at a local game store, and he got a really good deal on them. So I pretty much gave him what the deal they gave him on them for them. So where do I start here? I'm going to start with this piece of garbage. This is the Incredible Crash Test Dummies. Okay, this, as you can see, maybe there, you can see the rainbow. It's got the LJN, Rainbow of Death, on it. So the Crash Test Dummies, at first, it starts off kind of interesting. You're a dummy jumping off a building, and the thing is, when I first played it, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to hit everything because I'm a crash test dummy, or avoid everything. So you're falling from a building, and you're, I believe, supposed to hit things to get your score higher because you're a crash test dummy, and then you have to land on a target at the end. There's a whole bunch of different, it's basically a bunch of different mini games where you're kind of trying to hurt yourself. There's a skiing game, a really poorly controlled driving game, like a production line type of game. It's really not very good, unfortunately. I had high hopes. After the first level, I thought was kind of interesting, but it's pretty bad. So it's a typical LJN release, so I can't really recommend picking that one up, but I think it was like $2 or something like that. So let's cleanse our palate here. Let's talk about a good one. Up next, we've got Killer Instinct. This is going to be a common theme in these videos and when I'm talking about Game Boy games. This is actually a pretty good fighting game. When you look at it through the eyes of someone playing this in 1990-ish, 1989, and the lack of fighting or decent fighting games on a handheld system. To this point, there wasn't a whole lot out there. The music is quite good in this. The fighting's, it's a fun game. It's a faithful translation to the Super Nintendo version of Killer Instinct. The graphics, so this is a common theme with Game Boy stuff. The graphics, I wouldn't say are good, but they are a good representation of the Super NES graphics, if that makes sense to you. So that's Killer Instinct. I can't remember. I think there's like 6 characters. I'm not sure if it's a full roster in here. I played it for about a half hour or so. Controls pretty well. Some characters seem a little bit overpowered just because they've got a further attack range than others. There was one character with the blades. I can't remember all the names. I wasn't a huge Killer Instinct guy. Actually, I played the most Killer Instinct I've ever played is on the Xbox One. I really enjoy that game. Fulgore? I can't remember. Anyways, the character balance seems to be a little bit off. I think if you pick one or two characters, that you can just dominate the game with them. So up next is Torpedo Range. Had pretty low expectations for this one. I don't think I'll ever play it again. It was okay. So this game starts off, there's like an overview map that, I don't know if it starts off, I can't remember if it starts off, you're from a side view, I think, when you start off, and you're just moving your ship around, just kind of shooting other, they look like little pieces from Battleship, but you're just moving it around, kind of shooting at other ships, and then it goes to like an overview map, and then you're guiding your ship around the ocean, and you're approaching like larger ships, or it'll have like a star indicator, like 5 stars, which indicates the difficulty, or you can attack smaller ships, and then it switches to like a behind view where you're shooting missiles and stuff at it. So it's a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty ambitious little cartridge, and I wouldn't say it's bad. I don't know if I'll go back to that, but that's Torpedo Range. I didn't play it for a whole lot, so some of these games I find if I put 20 minutes into it, I don't quite get the mechanics. But then if I go like look it up online how to properly play, one game I found that was I mentioned before is Dead Heat Scramble, one of my favorite Game Boy games that I just found recently. At first I didn't know how to play it. I was trying to avoid the cars. You're racing down like a half pipe, and then I learned later that you're actually supposed to run into the cars. So that's like kind of what I mean. If I play a game quickly on Game Boy, if I play it for 20 minutes, I might hate it. But if I take the time to learn how to play it, it can actually grow on you. And I find that's more prevalent on the Game Boy with Game Boy games. Up next, I don't have much to say about this. I'm not even going to run a little video here on this. This is SeeJayAre. Pretty basic puzzle game. I didn't play it a whole lot. Oh, yeah, I don't know much about it, to be honest. I think it's a matching puzzle type game. And I don't think it's a very good one, so I didn't put much time into that one. Ants from the animated movie. Just the run-of-the-mill platformer. That's another thing with the Game Boy. There's a lot of kind of generic platforming games. Not bad, not great, just kind of middle of the road. If like I always look at this from like a 1990-91 perspective, and I was somebody who was coming from one of those Tiger Electronics LCD games. So even a game like this, had some redeeming value. And back then you got a game like this and you probably only had this in Tetris. So you're kind of forced to play it and forced to get used to it and eventually like it or find something to like about it. But from what I've played, it's pretty basic platformer. Speaking of basic platformers, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Actually, I wouldn't say this is a basic platformer. This is actually more like Contra. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Troy King. More like Contra. So you can run, jump, and shoot. You can run and shoot at the same time. You can actually shoot up. I think this game would be a lot better if you could shoot on an angle. You cannot shoot on an angle unless there's some trick to it. You can run and shoot, and you can point up and shoot. So you've got little robots coming at you. You're jumping over fires and trash cans. And then in the, what would you call that? The foreground or background? I'd say background. When you aim up, you're almost like shooting into the foreground at the ships, like the T2 ships. Again, they do a lot with the graphics in this game. And they're not like amazing graphics, but it's like a faithful translation, like a Game Boy translation to what the movie offered. You're playing as Sarah Connor in the early stages, at least from what I've played. So some interesting like cutscenes with dialogue, not actual dialogue, but written dialogue, obviously. So not a bad game. I think it was another like $2 game. So if you can find that for $2 or $3, it's worth picking up. Probably my favorite. Let me see here. Yeah, probably my favorite of this bunch. Hudson Hawk. I didn't have very high expectations for this. Movie licensed games generally tend to be really poor. But this was actually pretty fun. It's made by Sony ImageSoft, so not an LJN title. It's from the movie that came out in the 90s starring Bruce Willis. I actually haven't seen the movie. I gotta check that movie out. I don't know if it's any good, but I've never seen Hudson Hawk, surprisingly. But you're playing as a little chibi version of Bruce Willis, I guess. You've got the glasses. The character design in this is actually really cool. The character looks really awesome. Pretty standard platformer again. I'd say it's more of a puzzle-based platformer. You're, I believe, trying to steal some artwork. I'm guessing that's what the movie's based on. I'm guessing he's a thief, professional thief. So you're like avoiding spotlights and stuff like that in the game, stepping on switches to open things and stuff like that. Puzzle-based platformer. And it's not a bad one. Music's pretty good in it too. Music can go a long way in these Game Boy games. I'll like a game more if it's got some pretty cool like chip tunes. And finally, the last game that I picked up was Oddworld Adventures. So Oddworld is a game that I know from the PS1. I never really played a whole lot of Oddworld. It wasn't really my thing. Oddworld, I believe, yeah, was on the PSC, out on the PC and the PS1. In this game, you're playing as Abe. The one thing about these games are the writing in these games are really funny. So I believe they're trying to turn his people into some sort of snack food from what I saw. So this is another puzzle platformer. So you're trying to solve puzzles. Really slow kind of walking movements. It's almost like I would compare it to Flashback on the Genesis, or not quite Prince of Persia, but it's actually got like nice animations, and but it's really slow moving puzzle type platforming game. Again, a faithful translation to the PS1 version. Like not by any means good graphics, but it does the trick for sure. It all packed into a little Game Boy cartridge. I'm not a huge fan of the Oddworld series. I don't know how much I'll go back to this one, but still nice to pick up. I think it's like a $10 game too. So anyways, guys, that's it for episode 2 of the Game Boy Quest. Like I said, you can find a link to my Instagram page in the description below, and a link to the database if you've got any doubles that you are willing to part with. The best thing to do is to contact me through Facebook. So head over to the Facebook link is there too, or you can contact me on Instagram. Message me on YouTube if you have to, but the best way to get a hold of me is through those Instagram and Facebook. So once again, thank you to everybody who's been helping me out. Go check out Gamer Alley VT. Actually, he dropped the VT. Matt and I did some rebranding on his channel. He's now known as Gamer Alley. I have to remember that. So check out Gamer Alley's YouTube channel. I'll leave a link also in the description below, and you'll find a link to his channel right about now. Later, guys.